trying to reconnect.
We're live. Hi, everybody tuned in. Hi, this is Hannah J with RealEstateSINY.com. I handle the PR and video production here at the office. And this is our broker and my boss, Anthony Licciardello.
Hey, here we are again.
Yes, here we are. So back so soon. We are going today to be talking about the most overlooked things in real estate.
So with that, we're going to have a lot of things to talk about and discuss.
Yeah, so basically these are going to be the questions that you should be asking, and this is going to help you avoid a lot of headaches marketing your home, and it's going to help you kind of achieve the best results.
Mm-hmm. But with all of that, we obviously get into some varying topics when it comes to many of the things we talked about in the past, and we talked about one, crypto. Right? We actually made great predictions. Mm-hmm. The good thing is that we seem to. This is the one good step in like watching and like getting the best predictions, because I think at this point, predictions are about what's going to happen in the market, or basically what's going to happen with Bitcoin. We basically told you what was going to happen with Bitcoin, so
that's what it's doing to Bitcoin stock.
So
it lost 50% of its value this month, down from about $19,000 to about $10,000.
Yeah, and it's like I said before,
very volatile. I don't know if you know what happened. China and Korea all have banned cryptocurrency because it's not regulated.
Right, and it's kind of interesting that it hasn't quite got to the point where the euphoria kept this ride going and going and going on and on and on with these run-ups. I mean, what was it at its high?
It was almost 20,000. It was like 19 and change for a Bitcoin.
Some of the interesting things is that I think they're doing some currency exchanges for real estate in Bitcoin. Ooh. So it's an interesting time for real estate and the Bitcoin craze. But it's definitely something that probably in the future is definitely something that people are going to continue to kind of like. I think that there is value there at some point. I don't think it's all bad in the sense that it is a way of conducting. It's just the euphoria is actually going to make it difficult for people to implement it because it's just too expensive to implement. So it's really an interesting topic.
It's interesting.
And we'll
not
get
something
into plenty
that you
of that.
should be throwing all your money in right away, but that's a topic for another day.
Yeah, it's and we just want to touch on a couple of things. We have a couple of birthdays.
Yes, happy birthday, January babies.
Yeah, Anthony Orfisi, Jana Spinelli, also, who I knew was Jana Olson.
Olson, yeah.
So when I saw it, it's like Jana Spinelli.
Now Spinelli.
Yeah, now Spinelli.
Happy birthday, Jana.
Happy birthday. Yanina Kaufman. Happy birthday. Muhammad Awad and Marina Goldberg all celebrating birthdays this month.
Happy
birthday. It's a great a great month for them.
Yes.
And it's going to be an even better month for us.
It's going to be, and it's going to be a great year for us,
because
more importantly.
We're going to talk about something that people kind of go through a idea around this time of year about what they're going to be doing
planning
the
for the busy real estate season in the spring. Yeah,
the selling season is upon us, and that's going to bring up a lot of questions.
Exactly.
And one of the things about people kind of get and don't get with real estate is they kind of take a lot of the knowledge about what should be done in a home sale, and they're not applying all the right pressures to get the right answers in knowing what's going to happen with a sale. And I think in a market that's as hot as this, people trying to lose focus about really what's important in the marketing of a property, and still that even though you may attain a certain result, does that result actually translate into better numbers for them when it comes to the sale? So it's something that we'll discuss in detail.
Your return on investment.
Yeah, and but I think it's misunderstood within the marketplace. It's one of the there's a lot of misunderstandings about when it comes to the sale of a house. What's exactly getting the the kind of traction to drive value and what drives value when it comes to selling a property. But I know that you're going to ask some questions about that.
I do. I got some right here.
And we'll get into that.
All right. You ready?
We're ready.
Let's launch right into the first question, and kind of just a good way to introduce the topic. So, Anthony, what do you think is, if you were to pick one, what is the most overlooked aspect of putting someone's home into the best light?
Well, obviously the visual aspect. Having the visual aspect to selling real estate is probably the number one. That accomplishes one part. So you have the appearance of it, then you have the reach of it. So This is the first being the appearance. And I know you've taken some liberty to shine some light on the fact that
yes,
it isn't often, you kind of get into real estate and you kind of ask yourself, well, do you actually see what kind of photos are going up on a particular property? And this is an interesting topic for a lot of people, because one of the things is that, people pay a lot of money to sell a house. I think it's a real important aspect that people do. It's a big investment to sell, but in some respects, when you go and you look and you say, well, how does that picture gonna best suit my needs?
It's so important. It's so important, and so many people in real estate and homeowners just really don't realize how important it is.
Yeah, and there's been sites dedicated to just this thing. I think uglyhousephotos.com. That's a plug. So whoever runs that site, I think he said he was retiring it the last time I looked, but it was uglyhomephotos.com, which is actually MLS photos.
Super entertaining.
MLS,
so professional photos.
Yeah, these are actually real estate photos that he'd make a site about, and
from people who do this for a living.
And it's some humorous stuff. And we actually got a few of them. And,
yes, we do. I have the honor of possessing the bad ones. He's got the good ones. After I show you the bad ones,
but
to show you
one
how
of the
you should
interesting
be doing
things is like, we pulled some of these and like. Maybe you could explain the first one with the floor. I think that's the best.
Oh my gosh. Well, this is great because these are actually both from the same house. We will not be disclosing what house this was from.
Yeah.
But
I would go with I would definitely go with this.
Okay, so this is Anthony's favorite of all the ones that I showed him.
We're not sure quite what that is.
It's a bathroom floor, because I think I see the edge of the toilet, if you can see in the corner. That's like some kind of vent on the floor.
That is an example of what a real estate photo shouldn't look like.
Yes.
The thing is to make sure you declutter, and you do not want photos that show refrigerators that look like that.
You don't want photos that show close-ups on refrigerators.
That goes into the visualization aspect, and that's basic.
This one's my favorite.
Yeah, I mean that's
the brochures. The brochures, you can't see the rest of the kitchen.
But you have to kind of look at those things, and I'm going to put those over here, and we're going to
forget about those.
Yeah, forget about those, and kind of get into what that does in the aspect of selling. And I think this is the one thing that I really want to get out to people that they're not asking the right question about. They put their house on the market, and after that, a lot is left up to chance. So you have to really check on what you're seeing. It is absolutely detrimental to get into that, because what you see is basically a representation of a value perspective of a house being bad, like we've seen, or being good. That's not to say that you need to fool anybody about what they're seeing. The days of the fisheye lenses are gone. But the big thing is taking the quality. One of the things that I've always said is not just the quality in the sense that you want to have great pictures, but some people think you need 25 of them or 30 of them. So
30 different angles of just the kitchen. I've seen that too.
The overlooked aspect is that there's a lot of things, but the most overlooked is just the appearance alone. And before we can get into it, we could just keep going on about these other items, which we'll probably get into in another question. But it needs to be looked at. The number one is that I did a blog post some time ago about seeing a hamburger from McDonald's, and going to McDonald's, seeing the hamburger, and for some reason that when it comes to marketing a hamburger, you kind of say, well, they take the time and the effort to get the best looking one to put on the window, and maybe it's not as great when you see it. That's not what we're saying either. But we're trying to say is that when you look at a home, it should be represented in the best light possible. And if you're not really getting to that point, you're already begun a downward spiral backwards in terms of value. You really do create the photo imagery to kind of get people to want a certain value perspective from a potential house. And if you can't accomplish that in just the photography alone, you're really heading down the first bad path.
Guys, just get the dog out of the photo.
And that's
before you take it.
Yeah, from dogs in photos
I
to
can't
things.
tell you how many cat and dogs in pictures I've seen.
Yeah, you want to avoid all of that. But we're going to get into all the little details that that I see most people overlook. So let's keep on with that.
Okay, so what do you think are just some tips for taking the best photos?
Well, one of the things is preferably. Now, there are some agents that will use a professional photographer. Not saying that that's necessary in every aspect. It's for some people I would recommend it for sure.
Yeah, it depends on the person and the house.
But one of the things is training agents. One of the things that I take the time to do is photo training and training people to take photos correctly, and what type of lighting you need, the angle of photos, how to get the best marketing visualization of a property, enhancing its best features, and kind of delivering a better perspective for someone who's looking at it. So believe it or not, where you're positioned in taking the photo, how things are kind of situated in the room, and where you kind of place yourself when you finally snap that photo is a big part of it. Lighting. The lighting is a big part. Lighting is a huge. Believe it or not, I'm more of a fan of taking photos at night because uncontrolled light is actually harder to manage. So sometimes you could develop much more a better aesthetic effect when you do things with controlled lighting, and with the house lighting being what it is. Sometimes you get natural light, like we get. We kind of look a little bit darker because of the light in the back. And it's the same thing that goes into real estate photos, which is sometimes people take a photo near a window, and the light exposure, the automatic settings will actually darken the room, and you kind of lose the appeal or the pop of a photo when you do that. You got to have the windows behind you a lot of the time. Yeah. I'm a fan of natural light myself, but that's probably because I have experience and I know how to use it. We actually have a big light shining right on our faces right now. If we didn't have that, we would be silhouettes. Because we have a lot of light behind us. But it's important to really take a look at, not to say that iPhone use in photos is the worst thing imaginable. I don't recommend somebody with an SLR using the right type of SLR camera is definitely something that just brings you an edge that a bad cell phone photo won't have. But again, it does require, just because someone has an SLR, there's still the person taking it really make a difference. Right, you can take a terrible picture with an SLR. But it's just, what we're trying to say is that in getting the details necessary, someone should be at least, definitely putting in a certain, quality level in terms of setting the depth of the photos and things like that. They're all little things that you could do with an SLR you can't do with a typical iPhone, even though iPhones have improved drastically. They have. Some of the iPhone photos are really nice, but it really is so worth your time just to take, even if it's one class or you read up on photography. It's huge. It really is huge. I mean, big. It's big. It's going to be huge. But it's a big factor in that. So worth your time. Yeah. So when you really look at that, that's one of the things that get it. They'll know the right angles, and like I said, it's so important because I will tell you hands down, the biggest fault of anything that I've seen so far since I've been in the real estate business is if I was the homeowner, I saw some of the stuff that I seen, I would have some huge questions about how is that going to look in the public eye.
The authority.
But shockingly, people don't even check. I've done this before, and I've literally said, well, look at how things were presented. I had one case where, and this is going back when the market was really south in 2009. I had a house that was, I believe it was listed like 3 times prior to me getting there. I didn't change the price. I changed the photos, and it sold within 2 weeks.
Wow.
So we have examples about that across the board. I mean, one of the things that I can say is that across the board, that one aspect alone, it changes the perspective of whether someone's going to sell or not. So if they're out there and they're looking at this needs to be the focal, I will tell you now, it's the focal point more than what you're saying, more than what the person's saying to you at that table is going to be what's going to be seen when it's out there in the public.
Yeah.
That's even more important than what you could. I don't care the experience. This is the number one aspect. And when you go look at a listing contract, believe it or not, the listing contract itself is a marketing agreement employed to market a property. That's really the agreement here. So you could get into so many aspects of that, but it's one of the most overlooked things. You have to pay very detailed analysis of the marketing that's going to be done on a property. It does make a huge difference. It's big.
I do just want to point out, since 90% of home buyers use the internet now to find their home, it's even more important, the photography, because people using social media, people using the internet.
Yes, photography
is more important now than it ever has been. And when you see a good photo online, if you haven't seen the house, if you haven't met the person marketing the house, then that's going to, maybe be the deciding factor of whether you want to see the house in person.
Well, through our discussion, we already said it is. I'm telling you, it is probably one of the largest single detractions in getting. It's hard to say in dollar amounts how much this costs a seller in actual dollar figures, but I can guarantee you, if you're doing this, you could essentially lose. You may be losing $10,000-$15,000 in offers just because people will completely dismiss something, and I've seen this happen. They dismiss something and say, "Wow, I didn't even realize when they got to a house that it was this nice," and they overlook so many of the other aspects of what the property kind of offers a person because of the lack of depth to how they're taking the photos. They're important. It's I can't tell you this enough. I've written about this. As a matter of fact, I did a story on this that was featured in Realtor.com, and they actually did. I did a whole piece on just bad marketing and what it costs people. And I think people dismiss that today more than ever because of the heat of the market. Kind of, you could look past that. But even in the heat of the market, you still could be driving value even better because you're driving interest. Remember, interest drives value in anything that's being done real estate wise, just like everything else.
Definitely.
So it's a reminder. You can get. Here's a good tip. If you just picture, I don't want to get long-winded, but it's a good analogy. Somebody asks me, well, what makes someone pay for a pair of sneakers, a pair of Nikes, $120, and then pay less? You could basically get the same thing for $29.99. But why is it that people will go that extra mile for that particular sneaker? It's the years of good marketing and creating good imagery behind what they do, which drives value. So imagery drives value is what we're trying to say ultimately. So when we work on a whole bunch of that stuff, and we'll get into details about what that is specifically.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know about everybody else, but I kind of want to see, after talking about this, some examples of good photography.
Yeah.
So we have them right here, taken by our very own company.
But the big thing about, especially like setting specific shots, and you can kind of see like depth of the photos, grabbing the background.
Bring it right up.
Yeah, I mean, if you could see that.
Yeah, I think you can.
I need to get a big projector screen behind me so I can kind of like get one of those sticks.
I'll fit that in the budget.
But yeah, it's, one of the things you want to do is get depth. And then also,
before you move on, I just wanted to show the enhancement. You can tell we added a vignette around this photo, and it kind of makes the center.
Well, it draws people to what you want to see with the particular house. So I mean, it's so you want to create focal points in the photography. So what some of these things highlight is that it kind of forces the eye where you want people to be looking. Versus sometimes you'll catch things that just are not important to the overall. Right. So you kind of, I don't want to say create a tunnel vision, but you create a vision to get people focused on the best parts of what you're trying to photograph. Then there's other things like perspective shots where you kind of get, like someone had fire pit. Mm-hmm. You get the fire pit lit. Where its perspective is, it's kind of setting for someone as if they were actually sitting there. Right. One of the things that you kind of want to do.
Very creative.
Yeah, I mean, what you want to do is you want to give, when you do the imagery of a house, you have to do it in the sense that, we try to take pictures as like a straight on picture, which isn't typical of making a full experience of the house. So what this kind of does is when you set perspective shots like this, if there's a chair behind there, this is actually kind of what the experience would be more in drawing in a buyer. And
notice it's more at an angle. It's very creative. You see something interesting right out front.
And here's
there's nothing run of the mill.
The best part about this photo, folks, and I'm going to tell you the story behind this one. This here was just sold today. It closed today. This is $1.3 million house it was sold by Christine Romano. $1.35 million house. And
it sold how much above asking?
Well, it sold at asking, but it was the highest ever residential real estate sale in Great Kills.
Wow.
So this broke the record for the highest single-family home sale in Staten Island history in Great Kills.
And it is a gorgeous house.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous house. And the funny thing is that when you talk about area and you talk about bringing people in, this particular photo was done using Facebook, and we'll get into how we sold a property just like this using what we call enhancing value through aerial video, through visual perspectives that draw people to who would typically overlook a property without having all of these things that are necessary to drive market prices. Now, I can tell you personally, I think it would be very difficult, to get the highest price sale in Great Kills. When you consider 1.35 and you consider that against properties that are up, that this would be up against the Richmond Town, which is another prominent neighborhood here, and even Toad Hill. This house, in comparison to where they are, is actually done better in value than those. So it's an interesting take because it goes to show you that if time is being taken into making visually appealing real estate marketing, you could actually drive value. And that's, like I said, that's a very important part of the marketing process of a house. It's overlooked though. It's not readily discussed, and you should be discussing that when you're sitting at a table with an agent about, we could talk about all those things, but what's going to make your house stand out amongst its competitors? How do we make this house stand out amongst competitors, which obviously there's even what I would consider luxury segments. This house is not in what we consider a luxury segment. Yeah, luxury neighborhood. So
it's a very middle class neighborhood. A lot of homes that are probably $500,000, maybe.
No, I think 500,000.
600.
Maybe when you were here in 2010, there were 500,000. You're probably more on the order of about 700.
Probably more of 6, 7.
Yeah, 6, 7 now. But to give you an idea, though, that it's a competing market, especially in the $1 million market, that if you're in that kind of market, you had better. It's softer in this market. You know, that's where people get this wrong. It's softer in the high end market. So marketing plays a very key role in that. So
essentially, houses that are 500 will sell like that. Houses like this, it takes more sophistication.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that it's 1.35 million. 1.35 million, and we sold. I believe it was sold within 10 days. 10 days on the market.
Did a video tour for this
yes,
house. If you want
you did a video
check
tour.
Me out.
Yeah.
We did a full HD video tour, and not to toot my own horn, but I think that definitely had a part in helping get interest for the house.
Well, that's and we'll get into that. We'll get into that piece.
Certainly.
Hannah's giving herself a plug.
I'm giving the company a plug. It was his idea.
Right, for hiring you, right? But that's
not a bad decision.
But the big thing is that we do, but those are some of the visual aspects and the importance of that. But now I think, you'll get into more questions about how this kind of process moves about.
Yes, so we've been talking a lot about the visual aspect. We haven't really touched on the reach yet. So this is kind of where social media comes in, and we've had a lot of success using social media. And I just want to ask, how do you think that social media works in the seller's favor when it's properly used?
Here's a great example. Social media obviously is one of the largest. Besides, I could tell you now, when you talk about audience sizes, you talk about, in terms of, there's a certain broadcast media, and it's a reason why we're able to connect with so many people like this, that social media is a way that generates reach. One of the things that we worked on, and you've been at this for quite some time, I think we've been 6 years into this, we developed, the first thing is to develop a following for what you're doing, then kind of establishing, so when people they simplify social media, well, it's on social media. Social media has to do with how all your marketing mix works in creating what I call consistent engagement.
Yes.
So just because it's on social media, our channels, the channels that the social media is on, engaging enough to draw people into it to see it. So over time, what that does is, it's almost like building when you build social media presence, it's almost like how a TV station or a radio station is built, is that viewers kind of increase over time as you consistently develop better content for them to engage. So when we look at the social media aspect, so when we kind of take a house and we use the social media aspects, you're kind of working on a whole bunch of items that people don't realize. We get into building. You get into the building of all that traffic into there on a regular basis. So what we do for clients who list here is that because we have that consistent build and that high engagement, is we're able to get a lot of reach for what we do market. Mm-hmm. So that engagement now draws, right now I could tell you, speaking of the house that, and we do it for every house basically that we list, and every agent that comes in, we do a social media profile on the house, and it's done extremely professionally.
Yes, yeah, we do a home write-up, so it's basically an article praising whatever house we're selling.
But specifically, when it comes to the social media, what you want to do is draw in that immediate viewership. That you have to look at marketing to kind of virally get it off the ground and get people watching. So specifically, like the house that sold on Corbin Avenue and many others, within the first week, there's literally 10,000 views on every property. So what that does is it creates the pool of eyes that sets demand. Remember, the economics of real estate is the economics of everything else. It's forgotten in real estate. It's kind of one of the misnomers about real estate that, that market, the way other things are marketed is not kind of looked at in real estate. Demand drives price. Demand drives price.
Yes.
So if you can't create demand for a property, you're not going to drive price. I don't care. Some people think list price drives price, and it don't. List price doesn't drive price. It sets expectations. It doesn't drive price. Marketing drives price. Listing drives interest. So if you don't get interest, if you can't draw the eyes onto a property, you're essentially losing its value. And I can't say this enough. A lot of houses will not be seen. And what will happen is that we come up with numbers in our head as homeowners. It's very easy to do this. We want a number. I need to make this number. That's the only thing I care about with who's listing my house. I need to make this number. And there's plenty of people out there who'll tell you, that's the number I'm going to get you. Yeah. But they'll never explain how to get there. And that's where you really need to be asking the question is, you may want these numbers and then give these expectations over to somebody who's going to handle that. The bad part about it is it does two things. The internet keeps your house around forever. So if it's been listed once and not sold, it goes into the thinking process of the buyer, right?
Everyone
so the buyer's going to see, they're going to say, geez, it was listed here.
Reduced to $20,000 every time you repost it and remove the listing, and that doesn't look good.
Right. It's just a bad thing to do with all the information that's out there. It's so important to get this right. If you're watching this, get this right, folks, because I'm going to tell you, you will lose more than you realize. Sometimes it doesn't come up. I wish there was a way to quantify this kind of idea and how much this costs homeowners every year. But I can envision it's quite a few $1,000s a homeowner. So you do need to really, really pay attention to this. It's so detrimental.
I kind of wanted to tie this into our statistics discussions that we've been having. So we've seen prices really not fall, but really not be increasing. They're flat. They're flattening out. Prices have been staying the same for the past 5 months in Staten Island, whereas they just went up and up and up before. And what this means is that if the demand is not as high as it was a few months ago, you're really going to have to make the effort. It makes all of this all the more important for you to present your home in the best light. No?
Yeah, I mean, it's again. It makes even more sense then than now. It always, you're right to the degree it's always important. I think the idea that it's dismissed as being important because of the market being what it is a mistake. It's a mistake because value is value driven, and the economics of things. When you ship away everything else, economics is still economics, and that's where people get this wrong.
Yeah.
Is that everything still fundamentally applies. And everybody says to me to stop using fundamentally, but it's fundamentally, it's basics. And when you move off the idea of what really sells and what don't in terms of marketing and getting the best price, it's people kind of they're defeating the science of math, which is the laws of economics change when the market changes. That's absolutely false.
I do just want to bring up as well, when we were talking about social media engagement, your numbers are far less important than how engaged your following base is. You could have 50,000 followers and 20 likes on a photo that you post, or no one sees it and no one shares it, and it's much more important to have an engaged base of people that actually read your stuff than just to have a bunch of followers that don't.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we pride ourselves on is making sure our quality driven. We always try to see quality driven results in in what people want to see and want to know about, whether it's locally interesting stuff or relevant to house pricing and valuations. So it's important to really get into that. that piece of it with social media. So, or just being quirky and funny about something innocuous. But the basic thing is that we are, as far as a company here, which I'm proud to say is probably, it is the highest visited and trafficked social media platform locally. Yeah. Maybe if you really look at our numbers as a real estate company in New York City, we probably sit at the very top echelon of viewership amongst our channels.
It's very important to us. It's a priority.
Yeah, it's priority. It's not a priority for us in the sense that this is what's helping clients move their properties a bit better.
Definitely.
And for more. Even in this market, it still makes a difference. So knowing what reach is, and we'll get into directly into that a little bit with another question, I'm sure.
Yes. Okay. So Anthony, in your eyes, where we looked at some not so great photos, what do you think characterizes run-of-the-mill marketing versus really nice marketing? And as a second part of that question, how do you think that these details ultimately affect how the home sells?
Well, I'll give you a perfect example. a two-word paragraph describing a nice house.
Nice house.
A two-worded paragraph.
Nice block.
Yeah,
nice.
I'm sorry to say that this is not something that, again, you're trying to achieve. You could have 6 ranch houses in a market, and you look at a description and you say to yourself, "Holy cow!" That's it. Really? Yeah, but when you're going to introduce something into the marketplace, you want to, especially if it's your client, you got to separate. You want to create separation. Well, there's going to be 5 of these ranch houses. What's going to make
this one special?
Why should it be this one?
Why should I want to buy this ranch house?
Right, in this neighborhood, and for this reason, and what's been done here. The biggest thing I'm going to say to you that we've changed about doing these things is obviously using blog formatting to enhance the exposure levels and give people a reason why they want to see this one. Why they want to see a house of a client that we list here. Why? You want to show a potential buyer all the great aspects of what makes this the most desirable of the 5 they're going to see. And you look at some of the descriptions and you say to yourself, well, if you spent 20 years building, $750,000 in equity, I think it should take more than 3 lines.
Yeah.
It's really
not even a lot of effort.
No, it is an effort.
To write a nice description.
To get it right. It takes time, and it takes a little bit of depth, but people are paying good money for this. That's what they're paying for. When they go to a closing table, they will say, well, I have a bill here for $25,000. I want to know what was done. And this is, that's it. If you ask me, and people say, well, why are people abandoning real estate and say, well, I could do this. I could do this for sale by owner. We argue for sale by owner. We talk about why somebody says using a real estate agent, guarantees them the successful sale. Yeah, to a degree. If you're asking the right questions and doing the right research, I can tell you right now the results are markedly different across the spectrum. That does not mean just because someone lists a property versus saying, well, there's with some degree of honesty, I've seen some stuff where I would say maybe it would have been better if they did it themselves, because you look at the homemade photos and it's just you'd be baffled. And this is not a really hard science here. No, it's not a hard science. We kind of, but the questions I could tell you still today are completely overlooked. If you're a homeowner and you're not really, you can go through this video and go through the topics in depth. If you're missing these points, we could be talking about thousands and thousands of dollars lost. That It may not show up on a balance sheet. Say you listed $499. Well, I wanted $480, and I got the $480. What happens if the marketing made the difference between getting $499 and the $480?
Right.
You would never know that. And that's where the question has to be asked: is, are we missing something because of the way things are being done? Yes, I got what I wanted, but was there potential for more if it was done properly?
Right.
We'll never know that real answer. I will tell you from a litmus test of my experiences is that's profoundly the case. If I was to measure that out, just because of my experiences with, especially when I was in a more depressed market and people kind of set expectations too high, they couldn't sell properties. You kind of could benchmark things a little easier than today. The market forces weren't as kind of fast. But I could tell you, just from that experience alone, there are people who simply lost money on their property because of the way it was handled from the marketing aspect.
Well, you keep bringing up asking the right questions. So, what kind of questions should someone be asking?
The question is the biggest question I think a person who owns a home not just has to look at. When I say ask a question, they got to ask themselves questions on how to explore upon who am I bringing into my house to do this. So the questions aren't necessarily in front of a person. You have to question what exactly I'm looking for in terms of getting the best result. And one of the things that I solely advise people to do is go check out other marketing channels and other ways that are being done and the uniqueness of it, and does it appeal to you? You have to go back through. I would go sit on a computer, type up the person's name, type up the company name, review everything, review what they're going to be getting, see what they've done for their clients. Believe it or not, I think it's even more important than looking at reviews. Reviews could be skewed to different degrees and extents.
Check out their portfolio. Check out what
portfolio is a big piece of the puzzle, and it needs to be. Definitely. You have to discern what you're getting there, because beyond, you just don't want to be sold on the words of what someone tells you. You have to see what exactly I'm getting here. What's my bargain here? You have to ask that question, because if you don't, there's a lot of things that will be lost in the process, and you'll forget about looking for something, and then after things don't start going well, that's when people start questioning what's happening, and you've already done some damage at that point.
Yeah.
And so
definitely.
You can't. So when you're deciding, you need to look at a portfolio and say, does quality go into what I'm getting? Does quality go into what I'm getting? Quality, folks. I can't say this enough. You have to look at that as a big. Go check everything out. Check social media profiles.
Somebody could graduate from college, graduate from real estate school. That's just a piece of paper. That doesn't really tell you who they are or what they do. You have to look at what they've done and ask them to show you evidence, that they know what they're doing.
The interesting thing is that I believe, although the numbers have come down a little bit, of the people who were not referred in real estate, I believe it's 68 to 70% of the people sell the house with the first person they met in the process of doing this. So they'll call somebody up, well, because they fall into the sales pitch. They get grasped by the words, and they get lured in by, and doing the homework. And this is what you want to do in that 6 months prior to selling a house. And you've got to start researching. And I know some people, your best friends in real estate, and so-and-so's grandmother's best friend's uncle, who who's referred from somebody in California who sold their house, maybe what works for them. But the bottom line is, it's not. It's a necessary part of the business to the degree that it's done correctly. But if you're not really asking the questions, you got to do the homework, folks. Because if you're not doing it, I've seen it firsthand. You will cost yourself thousands and thousands and thousands in equity for not getting it right.
This is your most important investment, probably.
Yeah, and it's not being, and if I could say, yes, not something to trivialize at all. So it's really a subject that needs to be looked at in depth by every homeowner who has a idea about selling in the next 6 months. So, you know, you have, I don't think there's any more questions.
No, we touched on everything. I think that was a lot of fun. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it was fun. It's, you know, it's always good to, you know, give people the right information. I feel like of all the conversations I've had, this is probably one of the more meaningful because we kind of developed a company around providing a superior marketing platform for our agents to work off of. So when they go out there and you know, you ask questions about a broker and what they do for them, and that they actually have a quantifiable backing saying that, oh, well, they're being listed here. Yes, there's a home tour with you, of course, right?
Yes, there's that.
You can't forget about you doing a home tour.
But look, I do have to also throw in how important video is. And people don't realize, we could talk for hours. I mean, especially I could, because I love video production. Online, videos are becoming more and more important every single day. And believe me, when you look at, you know, like his 10-year-old son, you know, young people, they go toward video online more than anything else, probably.
Yeah, all the video.
It's not just entertainment. It's marketing. It's everything.
We've upped our video quotient of doing and performing more video. As you could see, live video becoming a big mainstream thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Around,
there's nothing else like it.
Around, you know, Facebook circles, they're going to be changing things up, where you're going to get engagements through more of the live feed systems that they have. So you'll be obviously, you may get tired of seeing us, or maybe a couple of other people here.
Maybe.
But we're going to be doing this frequently, so be prepared.
So just get ready. We're not going anywhere, guys.
What I'm trying to say is that the video aspect is that we need to create compelling videos on a regular basis. We actually, in the course of 6 years now, I think it's somewhere upwards of we've assembled almost 6 months of continuously running video.
Pretty much.
If you were to play it from beginning to end. So, you know, but, you know, drone photography and video is also a big thing. And we'll probably talk about that sometime next week. Talk about enhancements or the future of where we see this stuff going.
We could talk about this for a long time.
Yeah, but this is something that basically we wanted to get to homeowners and getting the right questions asked if they're thinking about selling in the next few months, how exactly they're going to go about looking to get the best value. We want people to get the best value. That's why we're doing this. We want you to get the best value. Ask the right questions. This is what I could assure you of. When the time goes in and the efforts go into getting you what you want for what you spend your hard-earned years paying off, you want to know what you're getting, and you want to make sure that the respect level.
And you deserve
to me,
that.
To me, it's a respect thing.
It definitely is.
You got to respect people's hard work and efforts. And one of the things that we do pride ourselves here in making sure that when we look at a homeowner and we say to them, I could literally go in and say that I know for a fact they're getting the best possible effort that we could assemble here and getting that accomplished for them. So it's important.
And we really do care. We want the best for all of our clients. And you know, your home is it's where your heart is. I know that's a cliche to say that, but but that's like your whole life. I mean, you could grow up in this house, raise your kids in this house.
Right. You want it best represented in the marketplace.
Definitely.
But with that, thank you again for asking those tough questions.
Yeah, well, they weren't too tough for me, but they weren't for the viewers either.
I will say, if you want to reach out to us at any point, you could
send us a private message.
Us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.
Facebook Live, obviously.
Facebook Live. And reach out. And if you have a question and you feel the need that you want to reach out and say, well, listen, this is what I need to do. What I'm going to be selling in the next 6 months. Am I getting the right person there, and am I asking the right questions? So it's an opportunity for you all to kind of engage with us and say, this is what we need, okay? So with that, I want to thank you, Hannah, for sitting with me today.
Yeah, it's been my
pleasure. And we'll
pleasure.
see you I would say we're going to do this every week.
Yeah.
Get ready.
Get ready.
Every week.
Me
every week.
And some agent chats too.
Yeah, we'll have agent chats and that and such fun stuff.
It's fun stuff.
Thanks for the thumbs up. We got a lot of thumbs up.
Yeah, thanks for the hearts and all the love. I just see them. They're popping up all over the place.
That's it. Signing off.
All right, signing off.